1 second. Yay! We are
Yeah, we're
live.
live. Sorry.
That's okay.
Distracted by the last thing you said to me there.
Yeah. We were having a conversation. We're like, oh, we better go live. And I'm like, hold on.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, I am old new dude. He is
Richard York, Asher's Born Son.
kind of robot-y there. No, I
Really?
was saying yesterday, I was talking to Lady Thistle and Lizzie, and their question was because I had mentioned it when we were talking about Toodles, and they're like, they don't know who we're talking about when me and you talk about Toodles, and I let them know that it's somebody that you follow. I think it's on Reddit or something like that, and you
It's
always
both. So he's got
yeah.
he's got a blog on WordPress called A Song of Ice and Toodles, but he also posts the same content over to Reddit.
Yeah, but I was telling them that you always forward or link Toodles stuff to me so I can see it, because if you don't do it, I'll never find it or even look for it. And then I tried to look through my stuff to find it to send to them, and of course I don't.
Yeah, the real reason he doesn't like the Triplet Targaryen stuff is that he's got his own super duper crazy stuff.
Yeah, some of his stuff is. I like it. Like I told Lady Thistle yesterday, and it's probably my favorite part. Well, I mean, she's a Lady Thistle is an outstanding person, fun, energetic, always in a good mood, always nice. But that's not my favorite part about her. My favorite part about her are some of the things, some of her theories. And as I told her yesterday, I love hearing something new. And she's had several mic dropping moments just on
Oh
our
yeah.
live stream alone, not to mention book club. And when you started sending me Toodle stuff, um, I was like, especially
Yeah,
the Mad
he's got a lot
Mouth.
of brilliant stuff in there, but he also does kind of turn things up a little too high sometimes, right? Um,
No, I don't mind it being turned up a little too high. I actually like that rabbit hole
oh
experience
yeah. It's
through
interesting stuff.
it's a
Yeah,
rabbit hole through somebody else's words that I would have never gone down. And I love going down that rabbit hole with him, regardless of whether I agree with it or not. It is still a really good journey. Hey,
yeah. Valencar's
Valencar.
here.
All right. But I mean, I enjoy my own rabbit holes, and I tend to go
Yeah.
down them quite a bit.
Oh, and his history stuff is some interesting stuff. He's got the I love the history portion that he put at the end of the Howland Reed stuff with where he talks about Oswell and Oswald and all the different Oz type of names in the history
Yeah.
and real English history and
Mhm.
the bones going north and how that parallels with some of the real history and or at least legends and so forth, right?
Yeah.
And
Well,
um,
could you do me a favor today, though? In this live stream, after it's done, in the comments, could you put a link to Toodle stuff for
yeah, I'll put
Lady
a link to his
Thistle,
main
Lizzie, and
blog.
all them?
I'll put a link to his main blog. Sure.
Okay. Yeah. That way they'll if they want to, they can check out Toodle stuff, and then we'll know
Yeah,
when
lots
we
of good
bring
stuff
up
in there.
that name.
He's he's got
Yeah.
lots of brilliant stuff. I occasionally think he turns things up to 11 when they only need to go to 10. But there's like
Well, I mean,
his
dude.
Danny is like what kind of reminds me of there is actually a mythological character that kind of reminds me of I think I put it in R plus L has three heads. I mean, I'm gonna have to go back and double check that. And
Mm.
anyway,
It's not like a Jonah Ark character, is it?
um, no, there's a myth about someone who actually had multiple
Oh, okay.
fathers, and so kind of like we've talked about Tyrion potentially having multiple fathers, right? Well, he
Right.
thinks that Danny is literally a child of three, which is what we've sort of implied that Tyrion is, right? So
Right.
um, anyway,
Ooh,
I don't
Child of Three.
right.
Oh, boom, mic drop. Uh, that is a nice play on words.
Uh-huh.
Uh,
Uh-huh.
and to be fair to Toodles, even though he turns it up to 11, George R. R. Martin took
Oh
history
yeah.
and turned it up to
Oh yeah.
15. So,
Fair enough.
But okay.
So yeah, I do like
Sorry, I
Teal
know
stuff a lot.
they asked yesterday. I wanted to go ahead.
Yeah, I do like Teal stuff a
No,
lot. I
I
mean,
was saying they
that's where
yeah
I really got like he's made the same argument that Lady Thistle's made, that Gerald means spear leader, and therefore you know that
Well,
that
if he agrees with Lady Thistle, that's just all you need to know right there.
he's often, I do think a lot of his stuff is right. I mean, he's the one that pointed out
Yeah,
that the High Septon, like the words describing the High Septon are all the same words that are describing characteristics of Balon, and that if you really read between the lines, they're actually the same size, and that there are really subtle hints that the Ironborn often are like real world sailors going shoeless and bootless, and that
yeah.
anyway, and why keep that so hidden but subtly implied, unless there's going to be some sort of barefoot person in the story who's really but then he goes and says that Balon is a skin changed faceless man. I'm like, you were right there.
Hey, like I said, I like the turned up to 11. This well, like I said though, they asked me about Toodles. I didn't have a good explanation of it. Toodles is your territory, so I wanted to give you the opportunity, and then also in the comments
Oh,
after this
tons of
to let
content,
them.
and his stuff is
Yeah,
really, really long, because he really does go through
yeah.
and find all the
Now,
little textual clues, and yep.
okay.
The
To
crazier
be
the better, says Lady Thistle. Yeah, you'll
the
like
crazier the
Toodles.
better. Yes, without a doubt. Now to clarify today, I
What
did not
madness is
dress
this?
up. I did not dress up for the live stream.
All right.
This is my favorite Hawaiian shirt. I just found it the other day when I was packing stuff in the closet and everything. But I had to go. Thank you. I
Charles loves the
appreciate it,
shirt.
Charles. Um, the in South Carolina they have a palm tree and a moon, um, a House Aaron moon actually on their license plates and all that stuff.
Lizzie, I detect a hint of sarcasm. Oh no, Thistle hates
No,
long
there's
research
not a hint
tasks
there.
and
There's a ton.
notebooks.
But I had to go. I went from Ruby, South Carolina, where I dropped Carter off from school this morning, all the way to Charlotte, North Carolina, where my wife works. And I had to go there. They had a 30% sale today. Um, and I bought a gun. It's a little gun, so lever action 22. It's just something small, something I've always wanted. And I saved $90 on it. So I was like, yeah, that's for me. But instead of wearing my normal t-shirt and stretchy sweat shorts that show off my white hairy legs that have claw marks and teeth marks on it, I decided to wear Wranglers, and I put on my favorite shirt. I put on cologne, and I got there and I'm like, I did all this for you because I'm using your name, your account number to get the 30% discount plus your employee discount plus another 5% discount for using the Academy credit card. So I haven't even looked at um, the receipt yet, but I probably bought $400 worth of stuff for $250. Dude,
Well, so
Other
Lady
hire
Thistle said,
you as
"Come
a
out here
private
looking all fancy
investigator.
on account of us." And Lizzie says, "Dude, I would hire you as my
Yep,
private investigator based just on that dope ass
yep.
shirt. Looking good."
Magnum PI. There you go. All right, that's enough of all the extra stuff. But this is a Clash of Kings.
Oh, dude, he looks like he's about to take us to Jurassic Park, says Josh.
Jeffrey, or as I call him, Jeremy. Yeah. Speaking of Chris Pratt, that is what I was doing to try to stay awake because I just watched Guardians of the Galaxy 3 the other day. My son bought it. So today, I definitely did not spare any expense. I used Adidas cologne when I went to Academy. But I was watching the first Guardians of the Galaxy to keep me awake. Here's the funny part. On the ride home yesterday with Carter, we never listen to music. He's always on my phone. He's always on kids' YouTube or his version of Netflix. And for some reason, we got on the soundtrack to Guardians of the Galaxy. And he sat there bobbing his head for 45 minutes to the soundtrack to
That's a
Guardians of
good
the
soundtrack.
Galaxy. So that was on my mind. And so today I'm like, I got some time to kill. I can't take a nap, even though I want to, but I'll go ahead and watch Guardians of the Galaxy just to try to keep me awake. It's been a while since I watched it because I mean it's a really good movie. But all right, enough of
Charles
my
is
crazy.
expressing his thirst for Chris Pratt. Jeff says that soundtrack
Yeah,
slaps.
no, look, I am a straight married man with 3 children. I have not been drunk. I look, I have not been drunk enough to go gay. Not saying that couldn't happen. I mean, every man is straight until they get that drunk. But if I was to go that way, Chris Pratt is in my top 5. I'm not gonna lie. There's quite a few Chris's in there.
Yeah,
There's
we know it's going that direction.
Chris Pratt, Chris Evans,
Yes.
Chris Hemsworth. Uh, at one point in time when Star Trek came out, Chris Pine, and then the last one will probably be a Harry or something. I don't know. There's 4 Chris's in my top 5. So not Chris the Crow. He's my son. Just hang that out there.
We're not Targaryens.
There you go. This is actually beginning to be a weird Friday. But this is a Clash of Kings, Tyrion 14.
Go ahead.
But and we're talking. He was saying it was a short chapter, and he mentioned to me last time that George in these these battle chapters, he tends to go fast and short to give you. She-Hulk has a crush on Chris Evans. Hey, mother.
And Jeff said Mount Chrismore.
There you go. Yeah, I like him kind of rugged, just to be honest with you. But the George goes short and fast with these battle chapters to kind of give you the feel of what battle feels like. Oh,
right.
And my niece Brooke had bought me a couple of years ago a Stark bracelet for my birthday,
Nice.
and I had lost it. And again, cleaning and packing for the move, I found it yesterday, so I put it on so it wouldn't lose again. But if you've seen any of these, you know we start with the brains of the operation, which is Richard, which he looks kind of frozen on my side.
I'm frozen?
And yeah, you're frozen and robotic on my side.
Jeff,
is anybody else seeing him frozen or robotic?
I think it's you.
It might be me. Okay.
I'm so glad you found it.
Yeah, it really
awesome. Look great.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. But we start with the brains of the operation.
I'm going based on the fact that I'm seeing you crystal clear.
Okay. Yep. It's you, dude. It's always me. Well, we tested out my internet signal all the way from my house to Ruby, South Carolina yesterday with Lady Thistle and Lizzie. I think Jeff jumped in there for a little bit. I dropped out like 3 times, but it didn't kick me out. I could start talking again like 5 minutes later so we can have our conversations during the day. And it was a good test run.
So you're saying the Discord app kept the connection as soon as it came back? It was on Discord,
yeah, it
right?
did not kick me out. It kept me in the Discord, even though I'd lost signal. I mean, I'm like, hello, hello, can you hear me? If you can hear me,
you already said we'd start with me, so I should get going here. Anyway, we're 14
yeah, I know it's Friday, man. I'm
started.
tired.
Sorry about that. No. I've definitely contributed. Anyway, not to mention the chat. Anyway,
it's all your fault, Richard.
This is Clash 61, Tyrion 14. It sounded almost like Pod. The slot in his helm limited Tyrion's vision to what was before him. When he turned his head, he saw 3 galleys beached on the tourney grounds, and a 4th, larger than the others, standing well out into the river, firing barrels of burning pitch from a catapult. So that's interesting. It almost sounds like a dragon or something, right? And it's talking about the others. But anyway, Wedge, Tyrion commanded as his men streamed out of the sally port. They formed up and spearheaded, with him at the point. Sir Man and Moore took the place to his right, flames shimmering against the white enamel of his armor, his dead eyes shining passionlessly through his helm. So the most dangerous Kingsguard is passionless death, like an ice zombie.
Yeah. Well, also the death in his face might be some foreshadowing.
Technically, at this point, Jaime hasn't actually lost his hand yet, so I guess he's not technically the most dangerous because Jaime says excluding himself, and he's going to die before Jaime loses his hand. So, so he never
Yeah.
actually had the title of actual most dangerous Kingsguard. And
Well,
after
see,
Jaime loses his hand,
Jamie is still the most dangerous Kingsguard. He just doesn't think he is now that he's lost his hand. He is
oh,
Azor
okay,
High. He is going to save
uh-huh.
everyone. The Golden Cape. He's going to fly to the rescue. Laser beams out the
If you have
eyes.
to,
I mean,
if you have the choice of facing Balon Swan or Jaime, I think you're choosing Jaime after he's lost his hand. But anyway,
hey, oh yeah, that's the fifth, Nicholas. Um, no, if I had to pick, I'd pick two-handed Jamie, so he would be the one to kill me. I'd be like, yes, take me.
all right, fine. At least it's over quickly, I suppose. Anyway, he rode a coal black horse,
No,
barbed
I'd
all in
beg
white.
him to take his turn.
With a
Sorry.
pure white shield. Are you sure you've never been to Jirok, or you just haven't met the right guy? Anyway, he rode a coal black horse, so barded all in white, with the pure white shield of the Kingsguard strapped to his arm. On the left, Tyrion was surprised to see Podrick Payne, a sword in his hand. "You're too young," he said at once. "Go back. I'm your squire, my lord." So Preston has talked about how loyalty to an individual surrenders your morality, and how Jaime shows the danger in that. And I keep saying a Seaworth should kill Stannis, and I'm not sure if Devon or Davos makes more sense. George really has never given a squire much moral ambiguity, so I guess maybe Davos should be the favorite, but I don't know. I keep waiting for a squire to face kind of face that dilemma that seems to be so core to the series.
Yeah.
Anyway, Tyrion could spare no time for argument. "With me, then. Stay close." He kicked his horse into motion. They rode knee to knee, following the line of the looming walls. Joffrey's standard streamed crimson and gold from Sir Mandon's staff, stag and lion dancing hoof to paw. They went from a walk to a trot, wheeling wide around the base of the tower. Arrows darted from the city walls, while stones spun and tumbled overhead, crashing down blindly onto earth and water, steel and flesh. Ahead loomed the King's Gate, a surging mob of soldiers wrestling with a huge ram, a shaft of black oak with an iron head. Archers off the ships surrounded them, loosing their shafts at whatever defenders showed themselves on the gatehouse walls. "Lances!" Tyrion commanded. He sped to a canter.
Hey,
The
before
ground
you
was,
go,
yep.
crashing down blindly on earth and water, steel and flesh. There's a lot of the same words that we're giving in the oaths from House Reed to the Starks. I
Yeah.
mean,
Of course, there's lots of the symbolism with both the bodies and the stones crashing from the sky too, right? And
yeah,
LML would be giggling at the symbolism, I suppose.
yeah. Well, I mean, earth, water, and it's fire, ice, or ice and fire. Um, Cold steel, ice is a sword, and then we have um, life fire, the life fire of people, and then you got flesh. I mean, steel could be ice and flesh could be fire if you stretch it out real bad.
Yeah. Okay. I like it. Yeah. There's certainly a whole lot of that kind of symbolism, and there's also
Yeah,
a whole lot of arm and hand and kind of injuries and necks and slit throats and all that, right? And we'll point them out we'll point some of them out anyway as we come to them. I don't know if we'll catch them all because there's so many, but we'll try. The ground was sodden and slippery, equal
yeah.
parts mud and blood. His stallion stumbled over a corpse, his hooves sliding and churning the earth. And for an instant, Tyrion feared his charge would end with him fumbling from the saddle before he even reached the foe. But somehow he and his horse both managed to keep their balance. I guess that could be divine intervention. Hidden fingers, as Casey makes his hidden fingers gesture. Beneath
Oh
the
yeah.
gate, men were turning, hurriedly trying to brace for the shock. Tyrion lifted his axe and shouted, "King's Landing!" Other voices took up the cry, and now the arrowhead flew, a long scream of steel and silk, pounding hooves and sharp blades kissed by fire. Famous red headline there. Now I want to listen to Earth, Wind, and Fire. Oh, okay.
Oh my God, Pod. There's probably only 3 people on here today that really know what Earth, Wind, and Fire sound like, and that'd be me, Richard, and you.
I don't know. People sometimes listen to oldie stations and things. we're old, and
There you go.
I'll probably make some. I'll make a reference to a TV show that I really think the three of us really want to watch. But anyway, Samantha, you'll see. Hey, says Lizzie. Okay, Lizzie wants to be included. Anyway, Samantha dropped the point
Okay,
of his lance at the
yeah,
last
she's
possible.
cool enough to know.
Sir Manon dropped the point of his lance at the last possible instant and drove Joffrey's banner through the chest of a man in a studded jerkin, lifting him full off his feet before the shaft snapped. Ahead of Tyrion was a knight whose surcoat showed a fox peering through a ring of flowers. Florent was his first thought, but Helmless ran a close second. He smashed the man in the face with all the weight of axe and arm and charging horse, taking off half his head. The shock of impact numbed his shoulder. Shagga would laugh at me, he thought, riding on. A spear thudded. I know them too, says Charles. Celebrate good books. Come on. A spear thudded against his shield. Pod galloped beside him, slashing down at every foe they passed. Dimly, he heard cheers from the men on the walls. The battering ram crashed down into the mud, forgotten in an instant as its handlers fled or turned to fight. Tyrion rode down an archer, opened a spearman from shoulder to armpit, glanced a blow off a swordfish-crested helm. At the ram, his big red reared, but the black stallion leapt the obstacle smoothly, and Sir Mandon flashed past him, death in snow-white silk. They say death rides a pale horse, but not today. Mother Boyne says, Earth, Wind, and Fire, I'm 63 with Chicago older cousins. I know. All right.
Oh, wow.
Good. More people are going to get some of the references. Anyway. His sword sheared off
That makes me the youngin'.
I'm younger than you are, but not by much. His sword sheared off limbs, cracked heads, broke shields asunder, though few enough of the enemy had made it across the river with shields intact. Tyrion urged his mount over the ram. Their foes were fleeing. He moved his head right to left and back again, but saw no sign of Podrick Payne. An arrow clattered against his cheek, missing his eye slit by an inch. His jolt of fear almost unhorsed him. If I'm to sit here like a stump, I had as well paint a target on my breastplate. He spurred his horse back into motion, trotting over and around a scatter of corpses. Downriver, the Blackwater was jammed with the hulks of burning galleys. Patches of wildfire still floated atop the water, sending fiery green plumes swirling 20 feet into the air. They had dispersed the men on the battering ram, but he could see fighting all along the riverfront. Sir Balon Swan's men, most like, or Lancel's, trying to throw the enemy back into the water as they swarmed ashore off the burning ships. We'll ride for the Mudgate, he commanded. Sir Manon shouted, the Mudgate! And they were off again. King's Landing, his men cried raggedly, and Half-man, Half-man! He wondered who had taught them that. Through the steel and padding of his helm, he heard anguished screams, the hungry crackle of flame, the shuddering of war horns, and the brazen blast of trumpets. Fire was everywhere. Gods be good, no wonder the hound was frightened. It's the flames he fears. A splintering crash rang across the Blackwater as a stone the size of a horse landed square amidships or on one of the galleys. Ours or theirs? Through the rolling smoke, he could not tell. His wedge was gone. Every man was his own battle now. I should have turned back, he thought, riding on. That could also be some hidden fingers, I suppose. The axe was heavy in his fist.
Yeah, I would think so.
A handful still followed him, the rest dead or fled. He had to wrestle his stallion to keep his head to the east. The big Destier liked fire no more than Sandor Clegane had, but the horse was easier to cow. Men were crawling from the river, men burned and bleeding, coughing up water, staggering, most dying. He led his troop among them, delivering quicker, cleaner deaths to those strong enough to stand. The war shrank to the size of his eye slit. Knights twice his size fled from him, or stood and died. They seemed little things and fearful. Lannister, he shouted, slain. Didn't he say he wasn't going to shout things like that? Anyway, his arm was red to the elbow, glistening in the light of the river. Light off the river, sorry. When his horse reared again, he shook his axe at the stars and heard them call out, Half-man, Half-man. Tyrion felt drunk. Interesting that he's hearing the stars talk to him. That's more Danny's job usually, but
yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, well, this is a different kind of drunk for Tyrion. And also, stop and think, Tyrion in the books is even smaller than Peter Dinklage. Okay? Peter Dinklage is actually technically too tall to play Tyrion. But the size Tyrion is in the books, all this riding, all this slashing with his it's a double battle axe, isn't it? Two-headed axe.
I
Uh,
don't remember.
so I
Could
mean,
be.
he's showing a lot of strength and a lot of stamina, uh, just for being in this battle. So I think some of that. I mean, it's got to be adrenaline, but I think he's getting a little help also with this battle.
That could be. The battle fever. He never thought to experience it himself, though Jamie had told him of it often enough. How time seemed to blur and slow and even stop. How the past and the future vanished until there was nothing but the instant. How fear fled and thought fled, and even your body. I mean, that kind of sounds like Bran in terms of him learning about the Weirwoods, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah,
And,
that
and
passing
it could be,
and
and it
present
could be a
blurring,
reference
or
to potentially
yeah.
tie him and his quantum leaping to this moment, essentially. Anyway, you
Well, I
don't
mean,
feel
this
your word.
tying the stoppage of time to battle, and then we have the stoppage of time with the weirwood trees, so that it's making a connection between battle and the weirwood trees for some
Yeah,
reason.
yeah. Westerosi version of a mother lifting a car off a child. Yeah, and as we said, that's probably given how much it sounds like Hidden Fingers. It could be a reference to the old gods, Bran. However you
Yeah,
interpret
well,
that.
that's why I mentioned adrenaline first,
Yep.
because I agree.
Yeah, yeah,
Adrenaline can
definitely.
do.
Westerosi version of a mother lifting a car off a child. That it's really the adrenaline kicking in and so forth. Yep.
Yeah, of course, I look for hidden fingers in every damn word. So
Sure.
y'all have to take my word on these things with a grain of salt.
You don't feel your words then, or the ache in your body from the weight of the armor, or the sweat running down into your eyes. You stop feeling, you stop thinking, you stop being you. There's only the fight, the foe, this man, and then the next, and the next, and the next. And you know they are afraid and tired, but you're not. You're alive. And death is all around you, but their swords move so slowly you can dance through them laughing. Battle fever. I'm half a man and drunk with slaughter. Let them kill me if they can. They tried.
There, hold on a second. There again, you get somebody moving at a different speed and time against their foes, much like Jamie does when he's healthy. Um, uh, Maybe pointing towards some of the better swordsmen like Sir Arthur Dane and
Well,
Jamie and all of them.
it's like we say you don't introduce time travel in a story just to mess with Hodor unless you're Dan and Dave, right?
Exactly. But I'm saying that the better swordsmen throughout the story and throughout the history might have been able to actually slightly manipulate time itself due to
Sure,
possibly their
it's clearly
bloodlines.
clearly possible in this story. So yeah, they tried. Another spearman ran at him. Tyrion lopped off the head of his spear, then his hand, then his arm, trotting around him in a circle. Well, there's another one of those broken arm of Dorn kind of symbolisms, that Tyr symbolism. So it's literally the character named after Tyr, right? So that the god of justice who sacrifices his I'd give my right arm anyway. He sacrifices his arm for justice. And
Yeah.
Archer Bolus thrust and specifically to bind the great wolf and so forth, which is why I actually like Maester Luwin is the best Tyr symbolism when his arm is getting ravaged at the same time when he's trying to contain Bran and keep him grounded and not magical, basically.
Yeah.
An archer, Bolus, thrusted him with an arrow, holding it as if it were a knife. The Destier kicked at the man's thigh to send him sprawling, and Tyrion barked laughter. He rode past a banner planted in the mud, one of Stannis' fiery hearts, and chopped the staff in two with the swing of his axe. A knight rose up from nowhere to hack at his shield with a two-handed greatsword, again and again until someone thrust a dagger under his arm. One of Tyrion's men, perhaps, he never saw. So, of course, that could be Pod, and again, it's George loves this, looking at the joints of the arm and inflicting more arm injuries. Again, symbolically, probably alludes to Tyr, especially when it's being done around Tyrion. Um, but um,
Yeah.
I think it might be Pod, right? The idea is he's never seen Pod, and Pod is probably trying to keep his eyes on Tyrion, and somebody's protecting him here. So it seems
Yeah.
likely that it's Pod, since he never saw, and he keeps looking for Pod and not seeing him, and we know Pod really does have his back here.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that Pod is actually even endangering himself trying to keep track of Tyrion and more
Right.
worried about losing Tyrion than he is about dying at this moment. Pod
Yeah,
might suck
absolutely. And
for pouring wine and all that stuff and look at his feet. But on the battlefield, Pod's a badass.
And all the squires seem to be just in the story so far, at least, just seem to be completely loyal to the who they serve.
Yeah.
I yield, sir, a different knight called out farther down the river. Yield, sir knight, I yield to you. My pledge, here, here. The man lay in a puddle of black water, offering up a lobstered gauntlet in token of submission. Tyrion had to lean down and take it from him. As he did, a pot of wildfire burst overhead, spraying green flame. In the sudden stab of light, he saw that the puddle was not black but red. The gauntlet still had the knight's hand in it. He flung it back. Yield, the man sobbed hopelessly, helplessly. Tyrion reeled away. So, again, this is one of the most explicit explanations of the black blood. While Cold Hands, Gregor, and Bran's vision might refer to literal black blood, most of the time George tells us blood looks or appears black, and it is red blood being symbolically paired with that undead blood. That includes with Beric Dondarrion. Hand, arm, and wound injuries symbolize Tyr and justice, as we've been discussing, which also ties to the hammer of the waters, right, and the broken arm of Dorne. And there's always been in history this idea of the hammer of justice being brought down, right? So the fact that he's kind of combining the Tyr arm sacrifice with a hammer, which in mythology is typically, like I said, that you're bringing down the hammer. It's typically a symbol of justice, right? So
and especially when you hear it everywhere. Yeah, I'm looking at a map of Westeros, and you have the neck, and directly across from the neck, you have the fingers, which I would say that would be the foreshadowing, because you have the map when Cersei and Jaime were standing on it in a Game of Thrones. One was standing on the neck, Jaime was standing on the fingers. As he just gives inanimate objects animate features, and he does the same thing with the symbolism. It's just everywhere you look, whether it's the map, whether it's the word. I know he paid somebody to do the maps for him, but I'm assuming he had specific desires on. I want this and this near each other, and this is what the broken arm of Dorne should look like.
Right. Yeah, sure. Sorry. No, you're right. And he personifies the map, he personifies the land. And I do think that one of the things that might be implying is that we'll see something literally have a conscience come out of the ground, if you will, right? Of course, I believe the ice dragon is actually powering the wall and will be released as the horn is blown and all the other things happen all at once, and it's all ambiguous what caused what, or anyway.
Yeah, I think it was book club maybe. We were talking about, well, if there are fire dragons and ice dragons, I think it was Charles that brought it up. Are there water dragons? And if so, is there an actual flightless earth dragon, basically made of stone? And Charles, I think it was Charles that said it. Then is Melisandre actually reading the prophecy wrong? And it's not waking an actual dragon from stone. It's waking a stone dragon, just waking it up. It's not a winged dragon that flies. It's the 4 element type dragons. It's
that's interesting. I mean, it's certainly one of the things that he's painted. I think it's going to wind up all being just foreshadowing for the ice dragon personally, but I certainly see that the way he likes to do things, both symbolically and literally and so forth, it's certainly possible.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like I've said before, regardless of who you're talking to, and I told them yesterday, I don't like talking to people that I agree with all the time. It makes for a very boring conversation. Me and you agree about 80%. There's still things that we differ on. And especially in those areas where we differ, a word, a sentence, a phrase, something will spark an idea that neither of us were talking about, and it might actually take. Thanks, guys. I have to get back to work, but we'll finish you up later. Valencar, I appreciate you. I know you can't catch us live very often. You always leave comments. You've been here since the beginning. We appreciate you.
Absolutely.
But it sparks a rabbit hole, maybe a small rabbit hole, but it will add to the conversation of possibly bringing up something that neither one of us even thought about. So I love these live streams with you. I love the book clubs. I love talking to Lady Thistle and all that, especially waiting on Carter and stuff like that, because you never know where the conversation is going to take you. It might take you 180 from what you believe, and then by the end of the conversation, you're like, it's another one of those Lady Thistle mic drop situations. You're like, okay, you've convinced me. It's like worms are basically earth dragons, and they
That's a good
exist.
point. That's a good point.
Awesome point, Todd. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Um, but the other day you were talking about the Oswald Went and the
Mhm.
Kettle Blacks and everything, and I told you I wasn't sold on it. I liked it when I first
Right. As
heard
we
it.
talked through it, it seems like there's more and more ties of them specifically to Heron Hall, and then maybe
Yeah,
Lisa more the Lusty, and
yeah,
then yeah, yep.
yep. Right now, I might be about 50-50 on it, but I'm probably swinging 60-40 in favor of that idea because I'm really coming around to it. And some of those it takes a while to get used to, and
Yep.
there's those that boom, as soon as somebody says it, it just blows your mind, and you can't go back to believing what you did before. Um,
Yep.
but I got on the rant again. Sorry.
No, that's fine. A man at arms grabbed the bridle of his horse and thrust it to Tyrion's face with a dagger. He knocked the blade aside and buried the axe in the nape of the man's neck. So we've got the broken arm of Dorn, and we've got the flooding is often paired with the flooding of the neck, right? Which represents the traditional sacrifice and the weirwood, what Elemental would call the weirwood stigmata, the concept of you know, the the blood, the bloody smile. As he was wrestling it free, a blaze of white appeared at the edge of his vision. Tyrion turned, thinking to find Sir Mandon Moore beside him again. This was a different White Knight. Sir Balon Swan wore the same armor, but his horse trappings bore the battling black and white swans of his house. He's more a spotted knight than a white one, Tyrion thought inanely. Every bit of Sir Balon was spattered with gore and smudged by smoke. He raised his mace to point downriver. Bits of brain and bone clung to its head. My lord, look! Tyrion swung his horse about to peer down the Blackwater. The current still flowed black and strong beneath, but the surface was a royal blood and flame. The sky was red and orange and garish green. What? He said. Then he saw. Steel-clad men-at-arms were clambering off a broken galley that had smashed into a pier. So many, where are they coming from? Squinting into the smoke and glare, Tyrion followed them back out into the river. 20 galleys were jammed together out there, maybe more. It was hard to count. Their oars were crossed, their hulls locked together with grappling lines. They were impaled on each other's rams, tangled in webs of fallen rigging. One great hulk floated hull up between two smaller ships. Wrecks, but packed so closely that it was possible to leap from one deck to the other, and so cross the Blackwater. Hundreds of Stannis Baratheon's boldest were doing just that. Tyrion saw one great fool of a knight trying to ride across, urging a terrified horse over gunwales and oars, across tilting decks slick with blood and crackling with green fire. We made them a bloody bridge, he thought in dismay. Parts of the bridge were sinking and other parts were afire, and the whole thing was creaking and shifting and like to burst asunder at any moment. That did not seem to stop them. Those are brave men, he told Sir Balon in admiration. Let's go kill them. There's the classic line.
There you
He led
go.
them he led them through the guttering fires and the soot and ash of the riverfront, pounding down a long stone quay with his own men and Sir Balon's behind him. Sir Mandon fell in with them, his shield a ragged ruin. Smoke and cinders swirled through the air, and the foe broke before their charge, throwing themselves back in the water, knocking over other men as they fought to climb up. The foot of the bridge was a half-sunken enemy galley with dragon's bane painted on her prow, her bottom ripped out by one of the sunken hulks Tyrion had placed between the quays. A spearman wearing the red crab badge of House Celtigar drove the point of his weapon up through the chest of Balon Swan's horse before he could dismount, spilling the knight from the saddle. Tyrion hacked the man's head as he flashed by, and by then it was too late to rein up. His stallion leapt from the end of the quay and over a splintered gunwale, landing with a splash and a scream in ankle-deep water. Tyrion's axe went spinning, followed by Tyrion himself, and the deck rose up to give him a wet smack. Madness followed. To quote the Blackfish, as I so often do, what madness is this? His horse had broken a leg and was screaming horribly. Somehow he managed to draw his dagger and slit the poor creature's throat. The blood gushed out in a scarlet fountain, drenching his arms and chest. Well, there's the neck and arm symbolism again. He found his feet
Hey,
again and
before we
lurched.
get too far down, one quick thing. Tyrion hacked at the man's head as he flashed by, and by then it was too late to rein up. His stallion leapt from the end of the quay and over a splintering. Uh, do we think that might be some intervention to get Tyrion exactly where he is and have him fall?
Maybe, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, Lizzie, I knew it did. Got it. What madness is this? Anyway, yeah, that seems possible.
Yeah.
He found his feet again and lurched to the rail, and then he was fighting, staggering and splashing across crooked decks awash with water. Men came at him. Some he killed, some he wounded, and some went away, but always there were more. He lost his knife and gained a broken spear. He could not have said how. He clutched it and stabbed, shrieking curses. Men ran from him, and he ran after them, clambering up over the rail to the next ship, and then the next. His two white shadows were always with him, Balon Swan and Mandan Moore, beautiful in their pale plate. Surrounded by a circle of Valerian spearmen, they fought back to back. They made battle as graceful as a dance. His own killing was a clumsy thing. He stabbed one man in the kidney when his back was turned. He grabbed another by the leg and upended him into the river. Arrows hissed past his head and clattered off his armor. One lodged between shoulder and breastplate, but he never felt it. A naked man fell from the sky and landed on the deck, body bursting like a melon dropped from a tower. Letterman used to do that in his original time slot after Carson. Yes, some of us are old. His blood spattered through the slit of Tyrion's helm. Stones began to plummet down, crashing through the decks and turning men to pulp, until the whole bridge gave a shudder and twisted violently underfoot, knocking him sideways. I could almost guarantee that George was picturing Letterman as he wrote that part. like anybody from that era who's talking about bursting like a melon dropped from a tower has probably watched literally David Letterman dropping melons from the tower. Anyway. Something the river was pouring into his helm. He ripped it off and crawled along the listing deck until the water was only neck deep. A groaning filled the air like the death cries of some enormous beast. I'm going to start counting off all the times you guys mentioned that you're old.
Yeah.
So there's that dying giant symbolism again, right? The death cries of some enormous beast, right? And we kind of see that with the literal death of the giant when when they attack on the wall. And I don't know if that's just going to be what's going on here. We lost old new dude. At least your video. Can you hear me? Probably not. Well, let's continue. So I don't know if that's represents the ice dragon or if there's going to be some other dying giant. Here he comes. Hey, you're back. Did you know you left?
My signal sucks today. Yeah,
Yep.
We have really bad overcast days, and for some reason, my signal is just crap today.
All right. Anyway, I was saying I don't know if the ice dragon's the only thing we're going to see as far as a dying giant at like the wall or something, but I don't know. I don't know what the dying giant symbolism is for in terms of. I mean, I know that this could be foreshadowing of the actual dying giant at the wall, the first battle at the wall. But my point is, is there going to be a when the wall is actually coming down, when the others are actually assaulting, will there be some sort of dying giant going on there, or is it just a reference?
The dying of the ice dragon is what breaks the magic that has held the wall up, and that's the reason the wall falls.
Possible. It's possible it actually kills the ice dragon. Yeah, I'm kind of hoping that.
Well, I'm saying the ice dragon leaves the wall to defend it. It's still using its magic to hold the wall up, and the dying of that ice dragon stops that magic that's held up.
Oh, so rather than being released as the wall falls, what if the ice dragon actually comes out, tries to defend the wall, dies, and the ice dragon? That's possible. Could be.
Yeah.
The ship, he had time to think. The ship's about to tear loose. The broken galleys were ripping apart, the bridge breaking apart. No sooner had he come to that realization than he heard a sudden crack, loud as thunder. The deck lurched beneath him, and he slid back down in the water. So because I'm guessing this represents the wall, we might actually see people on the wall as it comes down. Certainly that's what the TV show showed. I do think they were
Yeah,
trying to show aspects of the story that they thought were like the most, they had the checklist of, oh, in the future books, this is going to be the moment, the coming down of the wall, and I do think that there is something with an ice dragon going on there when it comes down, right? And it's not really about some
yeah.
whited dragon who went north and got trapped by the others. It's more likely that the ice dragon is what they were trying to depict there, but without having to introduce the ice dragon to the story.
Now, I think that among the many things that D&D just missed out on, could you imagine the visual of seeing the wall, all of it fall? Would have been like, it's
Right.
like the battle we're watching now. That big boat exploding in the green flame was just spectacular to watch on screen. The falling of the wall would have been also extreme. I mean, just not just a little section of it. The whole thing would have been breathtaking. They could have even showed it from space if they wanted to.
All right. Yep. Well, let's go. We're actually already over 45 minutes here. Let's go a little faster. The list was so steep he had to climb back up, hauling himself along a snapped line inch by bloody inch. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw the hulk they'd been tangled with drifting downstream with the current, spinning slowly as men leapt over her side. Some wore Stannis' flaming heart, some Joffrey's stag and lion, some other badges, but it seemed to make no matter. Fires were burning upstream and down. On one side of him was a raging battle, a great confusion of bright banners waving above a sea of struggling men, shield walls forming and breaking, mounted knights cutting through the press, dust and mud and blood and smoke. On the other side, the red keep loomed high on its hill, spitting fire. They were on the wrong sides, though. For a moment, Tyrion thought he was going mad, that Stannis and the castle had traded places. How could Stannis cross to the north bank? Belatedly, he realized that the deck was turning, and somehow he had gotten spun about, so castle and battle had changed sides. Battle? What battle? If Stannis hasn't crossed, who is he fighting? Tyrion was too tired to make sense of it. His shoulder ached horribly, and when he reached up to rub it, he saw the arrow and remembered. I have to get off this ship. Downstream was nothing but a wall of fire, and if the wreck broke loose, the current would take him right into it. Don't act like you have lives and commitments outside of us. Someone was calling his name faintly through the din of battle. Tyrion tried to shout back, Here, I'm here, help me. His voice sounded so thin he could scarcely hear himself. He pulled himself up the slanting deck and grabbed for the rail. The hull slammed into the next galley, over and rebounded so violently he was almost knocked into the water. Where had all his strength gone? It was all he could do to hang on. My lord, take my hand! My lord Tyrion! There on the deck of the next ship, across a widening gulf of black water, stood Sir Mandon Moore, a hand extended. Yellow and green fires shone against the white of his armor, and his lobster gauntlet was sticky with blood. But Tyrion reached for it all the same, wishing his arms were longer. It was only at the very last, as their fingers brushed across the gap, that something niggled at him. Sir Mandon was holding out his left hand. Why? Was that why he reeled backward? Or did he see the sword after all? He would never know. That sure sounds like hidden fingers, intervention, brand quantum leaping, call it what you will.
Mm-hmm.
The point slashed just beneath his eyes, and he felt its cold, hard touch, and then a blaze of pain. His head spun around as if he'd been slapped. The shock of the cold water was a second slap, more jolting than the first. He flailed for something to grab onto, knowing that once he went down, he was not like to come back up. Somehow his hand found the splintered end of a broken oar. Clutching it tight as a desperate lover, he shinnied up foot by foot. His eyes were full of water, his mouth was full of blood, and his head throbbed horribly. Gods, give me strength to reach the deck. There was nothing else, only the oar, the water, the deck. Finally, he rolled over the side and lay breathless and exhausted, flat on his back. Balls of green and orange flame crackled overhead, leaving streaks between the stars. He had a moment to think how pretty it was before Sir Mandon blocked out the view. Blocking out the sky like a nuclear winter dust cloud. The night was a white steel shadow, his eyes shining darkly behind his helm. Tyrion had no more strength than a rag doll. Sir Mandon put the point of his sword to the hollow of his throat and curled both hands around the hilt. Suddenly he lurched to the left, staggering into the rail. Wood split, and Sir Mandon Moore vanished with a shout and a splash. An instant later, the hulls came slamming together again, so hard the deck seemed to jump. Then someone was kneeling over him. Jaime? He croaked, almost choking on the blood that filled his mouth. Who else would save him if not his brother? There's the bloody mouth symbolism again. Be still, my lord. Yeah. You're hurt bad. A boy's voice. That makes no sense, thought Tyrion. It sounded almost like Pod. So Alayaya is not the only hero in Tyrion's story.
There
Up
you go.
next, Clash 62, Sansa 7. Sing, little bird, sing for your little life.
San.
She told us he wouldn't
Sorry.
hurt her.
Yeah, well, like I said, I mean, it is kind of creepy now without the 5-year gap, but with the 5-year gap, San would have been pretty cool.
Yep. All right. Well,
hey, we managed to make a short video, 50 minutes.
We did take like almost 15 minutes before we even got started. So.
Hey, look,
But
man.
yes.
I gotta tell you, I had zero energy when I came in here to sat down and hit
Oh yeah, we did
enter
well.
studio
We did pretty well.
Just talking to you and getting into the chapter. I've hit my second win. It'll probably go away in about 15 minutes. But I mean, it's like book club. The first 45, 30 hour, whatever it is, when we're just talking amongst ourselves and not actually talking about the book, is I enjoy that immensely. I mean, it's
Sure.
my favorite part of book club, just to be able to talk to friends and everything.
Yeah.
Especially some that I don't get to talk to, like when I'm waiting on Carter. Not everybody can make it during the day and everything. So I enjoy running my mouth without a doubt. Just ask my wife. So like I said, you never know what's going to spur an idea. And even conversations about other things than the books can sometimes just strike that little light bulb, and you don't know where that rabbit hole is going to take you. So, I mean, you never know.
Is there a way? How do you get to the most recent? See if Doodles has a most recent section. It's a July 2023 section.
Yeah, I can't understand any word you're saying, man.
I'm just looking at Toodles. I'm trying to figure out.
I'm
trying to look out. Trying to look if there's a. I know we sidetracked, but that was really fun. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Lizzie. As it was. Anyway, I'll definitely post a link to Toodles. I was hoping there was a way to list. All posts listed and summarized. That sounds like a good place to start. All the posts. Yeah, there you go. Oops, he's gone. All right. Well, I think we're wrapping up. He'll probably pop back in to say goodbye. Have a fantastic weekend, you guys. You guys are awesome. Well, thank you, Charles. Oh, he's coming back. Charles says, "Have a fantastic weekend."
Well,
you guys
I came
awesome.
back to say goodbye.
I figured you would.
All right, well, with my connection, we probably need to go ahead and cut this before I get lost again. Valankar, I appreciate you joining us live. I know it's hard for you to do. Lady Thistle, Lizzie, Sanjay, I know you're out there. Charles, I appreciate you. Pod, that was awesome with Earth, Wind, and Fire. I mean, that was one of the better jokes of the day. Sorry, Lizzie. And as on Friday, I always try to tell everybody to please have a fun and safe weekend. We definitely want to see you come Monday, same bat time, same bat channel. It will be Sansa 7. And again, before I lose connection, I appreciate all y'all. Richard, I really appreciate you. I know we don't communicate outside live streams, and I'm a fair weather friend.
Fine.
But I do enjoy your company, talking to you about Song of Ice and Fire. You make this channel what it is. So everybody be good, take care, and we will see y'all Monday.
First time for everything, Lizzie says. Somebody manages to be funnier than her.
Yeah. Like I said, Lizzie's sense of humor is my sense of humor from like 25 years ago. I used to be that quick with stuff. But all right, guys and ladies, we will see y'all Monday, and book club. I will see you at 8 o'clock. Thanks, Charles.
Have a good one.
Bye, guys. Bye, Richard.
Bye.